and ready to go, and I will keep my eye out for Director Savara.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting. Clerk Moss, announcement and attendance, please.
Thank you, Director Harrington. The Washington County Board of Commissioners is now meeting as the Washington County Housing Authority Board of Directors for this regular meeting, January 4th, 2022. Director Willie?
Here.
Director Rogers?
Here.
Director Roper? Director Fye?
Here.
Director Harrington?
Here.
And I will keep an eye out for Director Savara.
And for the audio, Director Roper is here.
And well, I don't think you called me, but I'm here too.
My apologies, Director Fees.
Great. So we have 6 members of the board on camera and available for the meeting right now. So welcome everyone to another bright year, the year of 2022. We have a somewhat short agenda today. So the first item on the agenda, or the next item, is public communication, where members of our community have a 2-minute opportunity to address the full Housing Authority Board of Directors. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to engage with us today?
We have no one signed up, Madam Chair. Would any members of the public like to address the Housing Authority Board of Directors? Not seeing any hands, Madam Director.
All righty. So next we'll move on to the consent agenda. Today's consent agenda consists of one item, the minutes of our December 7th, 2021 monthly meeting. Are there any comments on the consent agenda or a motion to adopt?
Motion.
We have a motion to adopt the consent agenda with a second from Director Willie. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. All hands are raised. Thank you. Anyone opposed? The consent agenda is adopted 6-0. Our next item is an action item to approve a resolution and order in the matter of authorizing the issuance of up to $18 million of revenue bonds for Goldcrest Apartments. And with us, we have members of our staff, 3 different members, our Executive Director of the Housing Authority, Komi Kalavar, our Assistant Director, Josh Kreitz, as well as a great Housing Development Manager, Shannon Wilson. So welcome everyone. A brief staff report, please, or presentation. Take it away.
Yes, good morning, Chair Harrington and Housing Authority Board of Directors. My name is Komi Kalavar, Housing Authority's Executive Director. This morning, we are requesting approval to issue private activity bonds for the development of the Goldcrest Apartments. This is 75 units, housing to be built actually in Beaverton. It's part of our cooperation agreement with the Metro Bond LIS. This will be the 5th affordable housing bond project to close and begin construction in Washington County's bond implementation area. We actually got an allocation from the Private Activity Board in October last year, except our closing schedule kind of shifted, and our external bond lawyers, ORIC, advised that we get a fresh 2022 allocation. So duplication of effort, but for a good cause. So at this time, I would like to acknowledge Andrew Crampton, who is our lead on this Goldcrest, the 75 units new construction. And I would like to introduce Shannon Wilson, who will walk you through a presentation of the Goldcrest Apartments. So Shannon has a PowerPoint.
Great. Well, good morning, Board of Directors, and thank you for the opportunity to be with you this morning. As Komi said, my name is Shannon Wilson, Housing Development Manager, and I'll provide a brief update on Goldcrest Apartments. So Goldcrest is sponsored by Bridge Housing. Bridge is one of the largest nonprofit affordable housing developers in our region, and they operate all along the West Coast. Next slide, please. So looking at the location of the site, as Komi mentioned, it is in the city of Beaverton in the South Cooper Mountain area. And so this is a project where the city and the county have really collaborated with regard to the affordable housing bond funds for the project. So this project, it initially applied for funding through a competitive solicitation process that the city had in early 2020. And it was actually not selected through that process, but it was such a close kind of runner up to that process that the city really wanted to still see the project go forward. And so they reached out to the county and asked us to consider this project as a part of the county's kind of portfolio of projects for the Affordable Housing Bond Program. And so the county considered this project as part of our competitive solicitation process, which occurred in the middle of 2020. And so this project was selected along with that other kind of slate of projects and was approved by the Board of Commissioners in September of 2020 for those affordable housing bond funds. So while the project is located within the city of Beaverton, these units will still kind of count towards the county's unit production goals for the Metro Affordable Housing Bond Program. So going back to the specific site, you can see there the map on your slide. It is just right across the street from Mountainside High School, which is the newest high school in the Beaverton School District. And in addition to being well located to schools, it's also in close proximity to parks, as well as some transit with a great potential for additional transit improvements as that whole area is really developed. So the Cooper Mountain area, as well as the adjacent River Terrace area in the city of Tigard. Next slide, please. So the Goldcrest apartments will provide 75 units of regulated affordable housing. And there on the slide, you can see the breakdown of unit types. So it'll be a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. Next slide, please. Some of the key features wanted to highlight about the project are, so out of those 75 units, 14 of those will serve extremely low income households at 30% area median income. Bridge, who's a sponsor of the project, is partnering with Hacienda CDC, which is a culturally specific affordable housing developer in the area. The project will feature community gardens and covered outdoor areas, as well as a community room inside the building. And finally, want to highlight that as part of the development team, 2 of the really key components of that, the architect and the contractor, are both COVID minority-owned firms. So Colas Construction and Salazar Architects. Next slide, please. So this slide provides an overview of the funding and timeline for the project. So on the left is a summary of the sources and uses, and these do shift a bit. This is really a point in time. You know, they're not final until we get to closing, but this is a good point in time with regard to the sources and uses. And so you can see the first 3 sources there in that summary. Those are the primary funding sources for this project. So the first one is the permanent tax exempt bonds. Those are those private activity bonds that we have before your board to consider this morning. The second key component is the tax credit equity, which is through the low income housing tax credit program. And then the third kind of primary source is the affordable housing bond funds. I do also want to highlight the local funds line item. So that includes $500,000 from the Housing Production Opportunity Fund from Washington County, and then $400,000 from the city of Beaverton. So then moving across the slide over to the timeline, just kind of summary timeline. Yes.
Real quick, so the tax exempt bonds, the 6.3, that will be the permanent loan on the project. The 18 million we're asking for today is during the construction period, and the difference will be paid down by the tax credit equity. Just for the viewing audience, I thought they should hear that. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you. So with regard to the timeline, you can see the key activities that have already occurred for the project. So with regard to land use approval, final approval for the affordable housing bond funds, and getting closer to permit ready status. And so the project is working towards a closing in mid-February. From there, it's an 18-month construction period, so anticipated completion around September of 2023. Next slide, please. And so this morning before your board, the Housing Authority Board, is the approval of the issuance of private activity bonds. And so those are bonds that are, an allocation is provided by the state treasury And as Comey just highlighted, they're used to fund the project construction loan, and then they also provide that permanent loan kind of rollover and provide the permanent loan financing as well. And they are a requirement of the 4% low-income housing tax credit program. And so housing authorities or the state can issue these private activity bonds. And so that is the item. There's a resolution order related to that issuance of those bonds is before your board this morning. I also want to provide kind of the larger context of the approvals for this project this morning and just briefly highlight the Washington County roles in the project as well. And so the first one of those is as the funder with the Affordable Housing Bond Funds. And so there is an item on the consent agenda this morning related to signing of those documents for those funds. And then the second role is as the approving jurisdiction of the issuance of bond funds. And so public hearing is required as a part of that. And so that it will occur in the Board of Commissioners meeting later this morning. So just wanted to provide that larger context as well of the approvals for the project. And so with that, I want to thank you again for your time, and Comey and I are happy to address any questions or hear comments that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, team. And I want to welcome Director Savaro to the meeting as well. Good to have you. Go ahead, Commissioner Willie, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, the question is on slide 5, where we're talking about the funding. You've got a deferred developer fee for $900,000. What does that come from?
Go ahead, Shannon.
Yeah, so that is from the, so in each project, there is a fee that comes to the developer. And so in this case, they're deferring that. So they're contributing that back to the project to pay for the financing of the project. And then they will get that repaid to them over time from cash flow.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioner comments or questions? Go ahead, Commissioner Rogers.
Comey, what is the period of time that these are affordable housing units? So I'm always worried about the downstream issue where all of a sudden they come off the affordable list and we're absent a bunch of housing and we've got a scramble well beyond anybody here's tenure. But what does that look like?
Yeah, the affordability period for the Metro bond supported projects is 60 years.
And so these will be guaranteed for 60 years?
Yeah, they will remain affordable, 60% of median family income or lower for 60 years. I think the Wood Spring, which I didn't mean to bring up, in the early 90s, the affordability period was 30 years. Since then, it's changed to 60 years because 30 years, I guess, comes faster than we all realize.
Thank you.
Well, seeing no additional comments, I just want to highlight how excited I am about this project, the range of partnership and the great work from our team here at Washington County, as well as with additional partners. I'm also really excited about the architecture firm and the construction company. If my memory serves me right, I think this may be the first construction project that Colas Construction is implementing here in Washington County. I'm familiar with the company's history in the city of Portland area and in Multnomah County. So it really shows the strength of their growth as a COVID business and is really a wonderful tribute that they are brave enough to spread their wings and take on projects here in Washington County. Just recently, just within the prior 5 years was the first time that they have taken on the largest public project by a COVID firm with the Oregon Convention Center renovation plaza project. So that was a stretch for them as well. So really, really great work, team. So we have a resolution and order before us. So I'm looking for a motion to approve this resolution and order in the matter of authorizing the issuance of up to $18 million of revenue bonds for Goldcrest Apartments. Do we have such a motion? We have a motion from Commissioner Rogers, a second from Director Roper. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, directors. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 7-0. Good work, team, and onward to the next steps.
Thank you, directors.
Thank you. So that is the end of the action section of the agenda. Next, we have our second public comment opportunity of up to 5 minutes. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to speak with us today?
We have no one signed up, Madam Director. Would any members of the public wish to address the Housing Authority Board of Directors for up to 5 minutes? Please raise your hand. Not seeing any hands, Madam Director.
All righty. So with that, are there any Board of Director announcements that anyone wishes to share? Director Roper, please.
I was watching the news the other day on Sunday, and when I can't remember his name, but when the senator was like pointing out to a housing authority and how the funds being distributed, I kind of get disheartened a little bit when they put you guys down. And I just want to thank Housing Authority and the Washington County Board members. Thank you for all that you do and thinking about the people and just the efforts that you put into just helping us out. And I really appreciate it. And I just wanted to point that out because I don't feel like it's fair that they pass the puck and downplay it, because there was so much funds just being thrown at once and not enough staff to distribute it fast enough. And I understand that there's people who needs those funds, landlords to tenants and so forth. But I mean, it came out of nowhere. You know, we didn't have a lot of resources to work with, and it really hurts my feelings that they would downplay it like that. And thank you for everything that you guys do for us.
Thank you, Director Roper. I believe you are referring to the Landlord Compensation Fund,
Yeah.
press. Okay, yeah. We, the Housing Authority of Washington, we dispersed what, 96%. I mean, we are one of the high performers. And Josh Kreitz has more details than I do in terms of the dates, but we got all our money out, 28 million to area landlords. There's some other housing authorities, there's 22 housing authorities in Oregon, and they're all in different places. But in terms of our performance, we got the money out very quickly.
And I forgot to give kudos to community action.
Oh, it's not about kudos, but yeah.
Thank you very much for raising that topic, Director Roper. The team's been working so very hard to support major new funding programs, all since the passage of the Metro Affordable Housing Bond in November of 2018, followed by the Metro Supportive Housing Services Bond, and then COVID and all the emergency funding that we have had the opportunity and the honor to put into play in the community in a responsive manner that meets all of the criteria that is required. This money has come with strings, and so applications need to be accepted and processed. And you're right that a lot of the databases weren't up to snuff to keep up with the demand. And then the application verification process was pretty arduous. And so we've tried to bring on as many staff, outside contractor, application experts as possible. So kudos to the team for getting those landlord dollars into play, as well as the emergency rental assistance dollars, working with community partners and additional staff as well. Thank you. I know the work continues and that the need continues to be great. So onward ho we go together, trying to do a responsive and responsible job serving our community. Any other board announcements or comments at this stage? Well, we have an exciting year ahead of us with more affordable housing, development, constructions, grand openings, groundbreakings ahead of us. I'd like to encourage everyone to participate as you are interested and able. We are also seeing great results from the supportive housing services strategy and plan. New case managers are going through the training. Relationships are being built with people in need and placements are occurring. And certainly we have winter shelters in place. We have more day shelters coming online during bad weather events. So kudos to the team. Please, everyone stay healthy and know that your work is making a huge difference in our community. Thank you. All righty. Well, seeing no additional comments, do we have a motion to adjourn the Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting? Thank you, Director Roper, and a second from Director Savara. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand. Thank you, directors. Anyone opposed? The motion carries unanimously 7-0. So thank you for joining us, directors, and we will reconvene on the same Zoom link as the Washington County Board of Commissioners and move over to that agenda. Bye, Director Roper and Savaro. Thank you again for joining us. All righty. All of our windows are set. Clerk Moss, do we need to do announcements and attendance?
Yes, we do, Madam Chair. The Washington County Board of Commissioners also meeting as the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services and all other county service districts is now meeting this regular session, January 4th, 2022. Commissioner Willie.
Here.
Commissioner Rogers.
Here.
Commissioner Fye.
Here.
Vice Chair Treese.
Here.
Chair Harrington.
Here. Thank you. And welcome everyone to our first Board of Commissioners business meeting for the bright, shiny new year of 2022. We have many different things on our agenda today, so we'll get right to it. But Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who would like to speak with us during our first public comment period of up to 2 minutes per individual?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have Scott Hartnett. Scott, can you hear us?
Yes, Scott Hartraft.
Perfect. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Scott Hartraft, and I'm an engineer by trade. I've learned when something seems wrong with the process, you speak up. As such, I wanted to inform you about an issue with recycling in our area. Although I don't work in the recycling industry, it's an area of the community that affects everyone. Since I moved to Aloha 20 years ago, I've done what I can to recycle, well beyond the normal single-stream recycling that we've become accustomed to. I brought electronics to free geek and hazardous chemicals to city collection sites. My mother even regales friends with stories of visiting, only to have us bring styrofoam to the transfer station. Recently, this process has improved with the introduction of Ridwell to the Portland metro area. They partnered with many organizations such as Trek to collect plastic film for recycling into durable outdoor decking. They are the only company offering this service in the area, and they will even do residential pickups. In December, I was surprised to hear from Ridwell that they were concerned about being shut down entirely for Washington County. Ridwell said they are unable to contact commissioners and were being threatened by other hauling companies. This is despite taking only 1/1000% of the total garbage and recycling volume. At that level, you know you must be doing something right if big businesses are getting scared. I did receive a note from Metro Councilor Rosenthal. He made an excellent point that although diversion streams for these hard to recycle materials are beneficial, ensuring these services for all income levels was preferable, not just those paying for Ridwell. Certainly agree. However, that goal will require significant cooperation with existing haulers who to date have provided no such service. This type of recycling is not profitable. Ridwell itself does not make money from recycling itself, rather only via their monthly subscription fees. With this in mind, it's not surprising existing haulers have been reluctant to develop the service. Ridwell is available now. They have provided excellent transparency about their processing, applied for permits, and have complied with all regulations. They are eager to continue their successful collections throughout Portland. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Scott. Next up, Madam Chair, do you have a comment, Madam Chair?
I just wanted to make sure that Mr. Hartranft has the opportunity of seeing the latest update on the Washington County website dedicated Ridwell information page. That's all.
Oh, okay. I did not know that was there. I'll look for that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Next, Madam Chair, we have Caleb Weaver. Caleb, can you hear us?
I can.
Please go ahead for up to 2 minutes.
All right. Commissioners and Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity to say a few words today. My name is Caleb Weaver, and I handle public affairs for Ridwell, a small Seattle-based company that has been helping households in the Portland area reduce waste for the last year or so. Thousands of Washington County residents have signed up for our service in order to help do their part to reduce the amount of material unnecessarily going into landfills and help the environment. As you're likely aware, we have been working with county staff for many months to try to come up with a solution that removes any questions about our regulatory status. Unfortunately, the staff's recommended approach, which was similar to the path endorsed unanimously by the Portland City Council, was stopped by the garbage haulers, despite the fact that there is zero overlap between our waste reduction service and the landfilling and recycling collection done by the haulers. We are not seeking to avoid regulation or upend current garbage or recycling services. We merely want to offer area residents the ability to reuse and recycle items that today far too often end up in the landfill. Unfortunately, just this week, faced with threats of fines and enforcement actions by the county, we have suspended our services in the unincorporated areas of the county as of January 15th. While Ridwell and the county do not agree on the proper interpretation of the current code, there can be no disagreement that the Board of Commissioners has the power to establish new policies that could easily and quickly put these issues behind us, enabling Washington County residents to have access to a service that helps achieve county environmental goals and supports innovation in waste reduction, rather than protecting large national corporations that make billions of dollars every year from landfilling. I understand that you all have been advised not to speak to us because of the disagreement over what the current code says. However, I'm here today to respectfully ask that you respond to the hundreds of constituents who have contacted you all over the past few weeks and take some action to enable Ridwell to operate in Washington County.
Yeah.
And have a conversation with us, not about what the current code may or may not say, but what are the best policies for the county that you, the policymakers, could put in place to serve the interests of Washington County residents and our planet.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver.
Right. Madam Chair, that is all that have signed up for this section.
All righty, thank you. Next on our agenda today is the consent agenda. Today's consent agenda consists of 15 items, 2 sets of minutes, 2 items from Clean Water Services, 1 item under Housing Services, 5 items under Land Use and Transportation, 1 item from the District Attorney's Office, 1 item from Health and Human Services, and 3 items from Support Services. What are the wishes of the commission? I see a motion from Commissioner Rogers to adopt today's consent agenda and a second from Commissioner Treese. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or signaling. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. The next section of our agenda is proclamations. Today we have a proclamation to join House America, and I would like to welcome our great Washington County team. We have Executive Director Comey Calavar, Assistant Director Josh Kreitz, our Government Relations Manager who specializes in housing, Paige Spence, as well as the Program Manager for Community Development, Jenny Proctor. So welcome, team, and I understand you have a short program for us and plans to read the proclamation. So please take it away.
Well, good morning, Chair Harrington and Board of Commissioners. I get to kick us off again. I am glad to be here to introduce today's proclamation. Housing Authority will join House America, a program of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness. As you are aware, the pandemic has only worsened homelessness here locally and nationwide and created additional urgency to address the crisis. Given the heightened risks faced by people experiencing homelessness, we have to act. At the same time, COVID-19 has slowed rehousing activities. House America recognizes that it will take government working at all levels and local collaboration to address this crisis. To do so, House America has two primary goals. First, rehouse households experiencing homelessness through a housing-first approach. Second, add new units of affordable housing into the development pipeline. These are actions we're already taking. So with that, I know Josh Kreitz, Jenny Proctor, as well as Paige will lead our discussion with your board about how the work we are doing here in Washington County aligns with House America initiative and why joining the program is beneficial to us. But first, I'd like to turn the floor to Paige, our government relations team, to give you the background and how we got to the recommendation here and the proclamation before you today. Thank you all. Paige.
Thank you so much, Comey, for the warm introduction, and good morning, Chair Harrington and Board of Commissioners. Thank you for putting this proclamation on your agenda today. As Comey mentioned, for the record, my name is Paige Spence, and I'm one of your government relations managers. At the very core of the House America initiative is partnership between the federal government and local, state, and tribal leaders to address the crisis of homelessness. So why a proclamation? Well, to join House America, we joined this initiative as a jurisdiction by issuing a proclamation or other public communications to set our goals, build our team, and manage to the achievement of our goals. So capitalizing on the funds and attention that the American Rescue Plan Act, the CARES Act, and the Consolidated Appropriations Bill of 2021 have brought to address homelessness, Housing and Urban Development, or HUD Secretary Marsha Fudge, who also serves as chair of the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, launched the House America program calling on local leaders to partner with HUD and the Interagency Council to meet those goals that Comey outlined. And by joining the initiative, Washington County Housing Services staff will not experience a significant workload increase, which I know we're all happy about, but will receive direct support from HUD through tools, technical assistance, and direct regular communications with participating jurisdictions, and including data support and some peer-to-peer learning opportunities. When we first learned of the initiative, we thought we would have the honor of being the first Oregon jurisdiction to join. And while the city of Bend now has that honor, we are very proud to be the first county in Oregon to join by proclamation. At the core of implementing the program, we have this proclamations as a communications and advocacy tool. And I'm pleased to have worked with our excellent communications team member, Emily Roots, and just to have secured quotes from both Senator Ron Wyden and Congresswoman Suzanne Bonamici for the press release announcing the proclamation. And I'll be referring to that proclamation as the year goes on as a reintroduction to Washington County homelessness work for our state legislative delegation, as well as for our federal delegation, as we discuss innovative solutions to solving the homelessness crisis that our team is putting forward. And Chair Harrington, as well as Commissioner Spy and Therese, will have the opportunity to meet with Congresswoman Bonamici in person this Friday at the Marianne Affordable Housing Building and at the Beaverton Emergency Weather Shelter on Friday to continue the conversation around supporting our homeless neighbors. And so thank you again for allowing us the time on your agenda today and bringing this proclamation before your board. And with that, I will turn it over to Josh.
Well, good morning, Chair Harrington and board. For the record, I'm Josh Kreitz. I'm the Assistant Director of the Housing Department. I'll just say personally, I'm really excited to join this initiative. I had the opportunity yesterday to speak with HUD leadership in DC, and they're really excited for Washington County to join this initiative. And let me just say why. I would say my professional career, I've never seen this level of resources and alignment around our federal, our state, regional, and local programs. I've just never seen anything quite like this. And so our congressional delegation has done a lot in the last 2 years to bring us a lot of resources around emergency housing vouchers, mainstream vouchers, home funds, increased CDBG and ESG funds. And then the advocacy and the support here with this board around our Metro bond and our supportive housing services measure has just brought an unbelievable amount of resources towards this issue. So again, our opportunity to join this initiative, we'll receive different types of technical assistance from HUD. And HUD, when I was talking about everything we're doing here, I'm telling you, they're really excited about this and they want to help amplify the work that's being done here in Washington County. So again, really excited to join this. I don't think I have to go on too much more. I'm not sure if Jenny's joined us, but I do want to just mention that her department is just doing so much major work around the home, CDBG, ESG, and also getting out those really important emergency rental assistance programs to help prevent future homelessness. And we're just really excited with all the partnerships and alignment we're seeing throughout. So that's my piece. I'll turn it back over to, I think it was either Comey or Paige to take us to the next part of the agenda here.
We are happy to answer any questions you may have, Board of Commissioners.
Well, we usually take comments after the proclamation is read, but given the recognition that's already been talked about, I would like to also thank our great team at Clean Water Services for helping us activate some of the COVID emergency funding through the CARES Act and the American Rescue Act to cover utility payments so that folks aren't facing a choice between paying their rent or their prescription drugs costs or paying their utility bills. So thank you, Diane, for helping us with that with your team at Clean Water Services. So what are the plans for reading today's proclamation?
Madam Chair, I will take care of that for you. Proclamation, Board of Commissioners for Washington County, a proclamation to join House America, whereas Washington County is committed to ensuring that all residents have a safe and affordable place to live, and whereas homelessness continues to impact hundreds of our residents and the lacking of housing remains a barrier to health, safety, well-being, employment, and education for these individuals and families. Whereas more than 580,000 people on a given night were experiencing homelessness in America when the COVID-19 pandemic began and had to endure the COVID-19 pandemic without the safety and protection of a stable home. While the homelessness crisis has been further impacted or exacerbated during and due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and whereas the most effective approach in solving homelessness is the housing first approach, which entails identifying and assisting households experiencing homelessness to obtain permanent housing quickly without treatment or sobriety preconditions and with few to no barriers through housing counseling and navigation assistance, tailored levels of rental assistance, and or wraparound supportive services as needed. And whereas the American Rescue Plan provides communities with significant new resources to address homelessness, including 70,000 emergency housing vouchers and $5 billion in grants through the Home Investment Partnerships Program, and $350 billion in state and local recovery funds through the Department of Treasury. And whereas House America announced on September 20th, 2021, is a partnership between the United States Development of Housing and Urban Development and the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness, states and communities to respond with urgency to address the crisis of homelessness. And whereas through House America, HUD Secretary Marcia Fudge calls on state and local leaders to set and achieve ambitious goals for rehousing households currently experiencing homelessness and developing new and supportive affordable housing units, whereas Washington County is committed to working with HUD and usage to use American Rescue Plan resources and other federal, state, and local resources to make progress towards ending homelessness. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this 4th day of January 2022, the Washington County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim that Washington County proudly joins House America and pledges to respond with urgency to homelessness in our community by setting and achieving ambitious rehousing and housing creation goals.
At this time, any board comments as well as a motion and a second to adopt today's proclamation? Go ahead, Commissioner Rogers.
A question, maybe, I don't know if you Josh or Comey, I poured over that. I always think if something's too good to be true, there's got to be a hook in there. And what hooks, if any, do we have and obligations in future periods other than to do the work we're already doing? Is there anything that I'm missing?
Commissioner Rogers, that's a great question. We poured over all of the same materials. We had some really good phone calls with our partners at HUD around this. This is really just about alignment and technical assistance. We are going to lay out some goals, but I would say we're drafting off of the goals that as a county, the aggressive goals, I would say, as a county that we've already put forward with our LIP and with our Metro Bond goals and some of our other federal housing program goals. So this really, again, it brings technical assistance to staff and amplification of the really good work being done to align our resources.
And it's really a reflection of how far ahead our region has been through the voter approval of the supportive housing services measure. That coupled with the voter approved affordable housing bond in 2018 really sets us apart. And Washington County has received kudos for how it has proceeded with putting the dollars not only through SHS, but also through ARPA and CRF into action, such that other agencies such as HUD want to make sure that as they have new technical assistance and data, that those leading efforts can be further built upon for even better results for our community. So our region has been brave and our staff has been exemplary in following through on very aggressive goals, right down to our equity goals with service providers. So yes, great question. Thank you. Commissioner Treese.
Well, I agree with everything that you've said, Chair. I also think that this is our opportunity to recognize the magnitude of the problem that we face here. So I think that that's part of this as well. The work is excellent. I'm so pleased that we're doing this, and the proclamation, but the realization that this is work that needs to be done is very important as well.
Yep. And the nature of this terrible pandemic that we continue to battle through, and the craftiness of this virus to continue to evolve has really exemplified a growing divide here in our country. And we have a lot of people who need help. Any other comments or wishes from the board? Do we have a motion to adopt today's proclamation to join House America? We have a motion from Commissioner Treese. Do we have a second? A second from Commissioner Willie. All those in favor of adopting today's proclamation, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Commissioner Treese, thank you. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Thank you very much to our team. I know I was honored to join a board of commissioners in 2018 that recognized that we have had great community need before the pandemic, was not afraid to discuss the needs of homelessness, and our commitment has remained and strengthened as the need has grown. We continue to have a great deal of work to do to help our community, and I am honored to do so. Thank you, colleagues. Next, we'll move on to another housing-related topic, and that is holding a public hearing, a TEFRA hearing, TEFRA hearing on the tax-exempt bonds related to Goldcrest apartments that was just part of our monthly Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting. So at this junction, I'd like to turn it back over to our Executive Director for Housing here at Washington County, Mr. Comey Calavar, and his great team to make sure we procedurally do this right with the public hearing.
Well, good morning again, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. My name is Comey Calavar, Housing Authority Director. This TEFRA, which is Test Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act of 1982. Public hearing is for the Goldcrest apartment. It is a requirement of the Internal Revenue Service and for the private activity bonds that are part of the project's financing structure. As you heard this morning, Goldcrest apartment will be the fifth Metro Affordable Housing Bond project to begin construction in Washington County, and will provide 75 units of regulated affordable housing for the residents of Washington County. We have previously brought this item to your board and the Housing Authority Board of Directors for various approvals as the project has moved from concept to construction start. So we thank you for your ongoing support, and the public hearing and related resolution and order, which you as Board of Commissioners have to approve, is to be considered by your board so the project can get started. Closing is scheduled for February, and we are eager and ready to get going on this one. So with that, I can answer questions you may have about the public hearing.
Do we have that resolution and order in today's packet, or does that occur subsequently?
It is in the packet, Madam Chair.
I somehow missed that on the agenda set.
Oh. Board of Commissioners resolution and order, it's on the second page, and the link is live.
Clerk Moss, could you help me with the specific agenda item number?
Yes, Madam Chair, it is item E.1.
Oh,
and-
okay.
And it's right after the staff report.
Yes, yes. Okay, great. I was looking for it as a separate action item. That was my mistake. So great. Thank you. All righty. So first we need to hold the public hearing. So I'll open a public hearing. I know in the past, we needed to open a phone line for one of our housing public hearings. So I just want to clarify, did we need to do that and check in with colleagues at HUD or anything like that?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have Michael Schrader online that has that toll-free line open. Michael, was there anyone that called in that line with any comments or concerns? Michael, can you hear me?
There, I had to take it off on mute. Apologies. This is Mike Schrader, Bond Counsel at Oric. Line is open and no one else is on. Thank you.
All right. And Madam Chair, we have no one signed up from the public that wishing to testify on this public hearing.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Schrader and Clerk Moss, for making sure that I handled the procedures appropriately. Seeing no one wishing to testify in this public hearing, I'll close today's public hearing and ask the Board of Commissioners for a motion to approve the resolution and order approving the Housing Authority's issuance of tax exempt bonds. What are the wishes of the Commission? I see a motion from Commissioner Treese and a second from Commissioner Rogers. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or signaling. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Thank you, team, and onward to brighter results with the Goldcrest.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you for joining us today, team. Next, we'll move on to the action section of the agenda. The first item is our yearly procedural item, and this is to follow the rotation that we have in our adopted procedures, which would result in Commissioner Jerry Willey being appointed as the Vice Chair for the Board of Commissioners for this calendar year of 2022. Do we have a motion? We have a motion from Commissioner Rogers, a second from Commissioner Treese. Thank you. All those in favor of designating Commissioner Willey as such? Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Next, we have an action before us to follow up on a lot of great work that has happened here by our Washington County staff and partners with a proposal to approve the Indigenous Land Acknowledgement by resolution and order. I'd like to welcome our team, our Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer, Latricia Tillman, as well as our Community Engagement Manager, Amanda Garcia Snell. Thank you. Please take it away.
Okay, good morning, Chair Harrington and Board of Commissioners. Happy New Year. We're very happy to be here today to speak with you about the Land Acknowledgement Resolution and Order. And I am going to turn it over to Amanda to provide you with some background and then tee up the policy discussion for the board. So Amanda, go ahead.
Thank you, Latricia. Good morning, commissioners. I'm Amanda Garcia Snell, Community Engagement Manager for the record, and I'm excited to bring the Land Acknowledgement Resolution and Order to you today. I have a short presentation for you, touching briefly on how we got here, mostly a reminder, and then sharing the land acknowledgement language and seeking your approval for the resolution and order. Next slide, please. As you may recall, in November of 2020, you all proclaimed for the first time ever Washington County's Native American Heritage Month. That was a great opportunity for us in the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement to develop and strengthen our relationships with Indigenous community partners. And we looked to those partners in April of 2021 when we began our journey towards a county land acknowledgement. So we developed a committee. It was predominantly Indigenous community partners, and really looked to them to help us draft land acknowledgement language. We brought that language to you in July of 2021 for your feedback and input. And then we took comments back to the group for consideration and are now bringing you the finalized language that we hope to adopt as Washington County's official land acknowledgement statement. Next slide, please. So here is the language. It's very similar to what we have shared with you in the past. It was prepared by representatives of the Confederate Tribes of Grand Ronde, Nez Perce, Siletz, and Yavapai, and it's been reviewed by County Council as well with just some slight changes as a result. So I'd like to read it for the record. We want to acknowledge the people on whose land we live, the Atfalati Calapooyans, also known as the Tualatin Band of Calapooyans, the first inhabitants of Washington County. We are grateful for the land we are on, Calapooyan land. Signers of the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855 were removed from their homelands to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. Today, their descendants are tribal members of Grand Ronde and Siletz tribes and carry on the traditions and cultures of their ancestors. We acknowledge and express gratitude for the ancestors of this place and recognize that we are here because of the sacrifices forced upon them. In remembering these communities, we honor their legacy, their lives, and their continuation in our community. Please reflect on the role government has played in the painful and colonial history, and reflect as well on the resilience and healing of the Indigenous land and communities. We would like to invite everyone to collaborate and work together with the tribes to take care of the land and water and the people who inhabit these spaces. Next slide, please. So if you approve the resolution and order, our next steps will be to bring back to you all a draft implementation plan for your review. We'll work closely with the Equity Leadership Council Committee for Board and Commission's Diversity, Inclusion, Best Practices, it's a long name, and other key staff to develop a plan that takes into consideration the recommendations from the Indigenous work group that were brought to you in July and then revised per your feedback. The plan will provide guidance to staff and the public on when, where, and how to appropriately acknowledge Indigenous land. And this will include specifics about county-sponsored meetings and events and in county spaces. And then we will also develop a staff training plan so that people are informed and supported to implement the land acknowledgement. This is complex with many different situations and factors to consider. And so we really want to take our time and work closely with staff and be thoughtful about the implementation so that we'll be successful and it will be sustainable. And so all of that to say that it could be a couple of months before we come back to you before we bring a draft back to you for your review. Next slide, please. So our ask of you all is that you adopt the Indigenous land acknowledgement language through resolution and order, and then delegate the implementation authority to the CAO.
Commissioners, what questions and comments do you have on this proposed land acknowledgement as well as the request for the next steps? Commissioner Rogers, go ahead.
Sure, thank you. As you know, I made comments at a prior meeting, which I still hold true today in my mind. One, I appreciate the staff taking those comments to the work group and discussing them. I understand that they declined to make any adjustments. What I would say is that I particularly like in the proclamation that many voices have been left out in the past. I like the message. I've always been a supporter of the message. I like that you say that with the relocation, which is a terrible tragedy for mankind, had nothing to do just for this area. Whenever people are treated this way, it's horrible. And so I like that. I also like that we're acknowledging that people are stewards. What I have continued to say is that we continue to use colonial language, which by my recollection, in our statistics, this was only a few years back, 1/6 of the population of Washington County weren't even born in this country. And for those of us who are natives like myself, we weren't even here in 1855. And we were here in the early 1900s. So we all acknowledge that things need to heal and things need to get better. And so I believe in all of that. I like in the land acknowledgement that we need to reflect so that these sorts of things don't occur again, though we saw that we had problems in World War II with the Japanese relocation, which is another tragedy that we should have never had. So there's many of these throughout history. I thought about not voting on this, but that would be disrespectful to those who really were here. When I was mayor of Tualatin, as you might see over there were many acknowledgements of the various native populations throughout the country. And so I'm not going to abstain. I'll vote in favor, but I plead with us all to understand that we have a very divided nation, a very divided state, and we really can't use terms that are, though people get excited about them, that make us, depart from the civil actions that we all should have as individuals. None of us would accept any of this today. I just think we need a reconciliation. Recognition is sort of the thing that we need to do. We need to reflect on what we've done wrong as individuals and as society so that we don't repeat, but we don't need any more division. And so I say that, and I'll vote in favor today. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogers. Go ahead, Commissioner Willie.
Thank you, Chair. I too will support the adoption of this land acknowledgement resolution and order. What I am opposed to is the delegation of the implementation authority going to the CAO. I would like our CAO and staff that are involved in that to come back to the Board of Commissioners at a time when they have a plan in mind and present that to us, and we will approve it at that time. So that would be my preference.
Any other board comments?
I was under the.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would respect the commissioner's proposal. I didn't think about that, but it seems like a fair proposal. So.
Go ahead, Commissioner Treese.
I thought that that was the proposal, was to come back with the plan. So but nonetheless, I just want to enthusiastically support the adoption of this, and I think that it's important that that we recognize all aspects. So thank you very much to the staff for the work that was done. I appreciate it.
So Amanda did speak to that plan being shared with the board, but the resolution and order provides or delegates the implementation of that plan to the CAO. And so what Commissioner Willie has requested a change is that that delegation be withdrawn for the board to approve directly that implementation plan. So we don't have a motion on the table yet to approve the resolution and order. Instead, what we have heard is a request. So I would first ask if there is a motion to put on the table. Go ahead, Commissioner Treese.
Could I ask for more clarification from Commissioner Willie about this? Seems like it's something that we would normally direct to the CAO for implementation. So I'm confused as to why we would take a leadership position on the implementation of this.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Pam. I'll respond to that. If you go back up to the slide just before this, slide number 4, and the second bullet point provides guidance on when, where, and how to appropriately acknowledge indigenous land. Well, we are looking at this resolution and order in a much different fashion than we have in other resolution and orders. And I think that's why I'm asking for to not delegate that implementation. We have talked about a variety of places and certainly frequency that this resolution will be read. And I'd just like that to be much more discussed when the CAO brings that back to us, that the board would have opportunity to weigh in on that rather than just delegate that authority. So that's why I'm asking for this. We're treating this resolution much differently than we have others. So if you're looking for a motion, and Chair, I'm not sure I understand how to do this either, but if you're looking for a motion, I would move that we adopt the Indigenous land acknowledgement language through the resolution and order. And we stop there. Is that okay?
Mr. Carr?
I recommend that the motion be to adopt the resolution in order, but striking the language after the words Exhibit A on lines 9 and 10 of page 2 of the resolution in order. That the language that would be stricken would be the language that reads, and delegates to the county administrator or designee the authority to determine appropriate implementation of the land acknowledgement.
Wouldn't we also have to substitute and direct the CAO to come back to the board with an implementation plan?
You could do that. You don't. I don't know that it needs to be in the resolution and order because that's not giving her any additional authority than she didn't have now. But you can certainly make it clear.
My reason for doing so is I don't want our community to think that we've embraced a land acknowledgement and have no commitment to follow through on how to implement such a land acknowledgement. So
then it would read, and it directs the county administrator to bring an implementation plan to the Board of Commissioners.
And I'm good with that. If that's, I need to amend my motion to reflect what our county counsel just said.
So we've heard a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second from Commissioner Rogers. Commissioner discussion or comments?
I am. I will be voting against that amendment. And I think I do agree with Commissioner Willie that we are treating this resolution differently. But it also sounds like we're a little bit micromanaging what the CAO does. And I think our role as a policymaker and then the implementation role lies with, I'm just going to say Tanya because I don't want to screw out the acronyms. So that's why I'll be voting against, and I like to see us adopt as the staff are recommending.
Any other commissioner comments before I speak last? Go ahead, Commissioner Treese.
I have a high comfort level in our CAO implementing this, especially given her experience in Boulder and in her previous jobs in working with this type of with the Native American community. My comfort level is very high, so I don't want to vote no and not pass the resolution. I want to be very careful about what I'm doing here. So it's my choice to give the authority to our CAO for the resolution, and I want to pass the resolution. So I'm a little confused here.
So I think, Commissioner Treese, what you're looking for is an understanding that if this current motion goes down, that asking if there will be an opportunity to propose or repropose the
yes,
the prior recommendation. And yes, that will be dependent upon the result of this motion and action.
Okay. Thank you.
So Commissioner Willie wishes to speak, and then I'll follow up with my comments. So go ahead again, Commissioner Willie.
My amended motion was not intended to say I don't trust Tanya to certainly do what is right and well and do a good job, or the staff or anything like that. I just wanted to assure that it came back to this board for approval before it was enacted. And so that's the only thing. I mean, again, I have a lot of faith and trust in Tanya and certainly her team. So that wasn't the intent of that modification. And also, yeah, I'm in agreement with you, Pam. I want to pass this resolution in order. So whatever shape it comes in, I'm with you on that. So let's move ahead.
So I'll close with my comments. I concur with comments made by Commissioner Fye and Commissioner Treese. We have expertise on our team, our leaders, our executive staff team, but also other members of our team as they have engaged with our community in developing this. And also, I will come back to the discussions that have taken place through our planning commission. And so there has been a variety of community engagement on the development and the utilization of a land acknowledgement such as this. So I think it is appropriate for us to, or I will be voting no on the current motion and would have preferred a motion as originally proposed. So I think we've had some extensive comments here, but before I call the current, the vote on the current motion, I will see if there are any, I will break precedent, though I have spoken last, to see if there are any last comments. Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of approving a motion that approves of the Indigenous land acknowledgement, but and directs the CAO to return to the board for review and approval of the implementation plan as articulated by our county council, please vote by saying aye or raising your hand. Thank you, commissioners. Anyone opposed, please say aye or raise your hand. Thank you, commissioners. The motion fails on a vote of 2 to 3. So, Commissioner Treese, you were expressing that you were in favor of the recommended resolution and order. Would you like to make that motion?
So moved. So moved.
Is there a second to that motion? A second from Commissioner Fye. Are there any commissioner comments? Okay, for clarity for our public, we have a motion to approve the Indigenous Land Acknowledgement Resolution and Order and delegate the authority of moving forward with the implementation plan as listed on the board action slide in our presentation and with the original resolution and order that was published in our packet. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye or raise your hand. Thank you, commissioners. Anyone opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5 to 0. And I would like to also thank the representatives of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, whose ancestors include the Atfalati and Kalapunians, the first inhabitants of Washington County. We also had additional participants representing other Indigenous communities residing here in Washington County, including those from Nez Perce, Siletz, and Yavapai nations. Thank you to all of them and broader community members for working with our staff team to develop this land acknowledgement and for further consideration as we move forward to put it into practice here in Washington County in a respectful and healing process. Thank you. So we have one more action item for today's agenda, and it's in relation to our Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District, also referred to as ESPD, a proposal for a levy replacement, which would also direct staff through our results today to draft the ballot material to put such a proposal into play. So at this juncture, I would like to introduce our Assistant County Administrator, Aaron Calvert, and also welcome our Sheriff, Pat Garrett. Please take it away.
Good morning, Chair Harrington. Thank you. And good morning, Board of Commissioners. Happy New Year to all of you. As mentioned, I'm Aaron Calvert with the County Administrative Office, and I'm joined today by Sheriff Pat Garrett for a brief staff report on the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District proposal for a 5-year replacement local option levy to begin in fiscal year 2023 through 2028. In addition to this slide presentation, you'll find the levy proposal document in today's packet. Next slide, please.
Good morning, Commissioner. Sheriff Pat Garrett here. It's certainly good to be with you. By way of background, the Enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District was established about 34 years ago. Its purpose continues today to provide an enhanced level of law enforcement services to meet the public safety needs of the urban unincorporated communities. Enhanced simply means to raise the service level from about 1/2 officer per thousand, typical of rural communities, to about 1 officer per thousand as a minimum service level for our urban unincorporated communities. Slide, please.
As you know, the ESPD has 2 funding mechanisms. The first, a permanent tax rate, which was initially a serial levy in the 1990s, but was impacted by Measure 50 in 1997, which in essence replaced most tax levies with a permanent rate. This rate is about 64 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. The second funding mechanism is the local option levy. This current levy is the 8th one since the inception of the district, and the tax rate is currently set at a rate of 68 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. On the right side of the slide, you can see the proposed levy rate is 83 cents, which is an increase of 15 cents. That combined with the permanent rate would provide $1.47 per $1,000 of assessed value. Next slide, please. This slide notes the share of resources for the current levy. You can see that the permanent rate in the district provides nearly 43% of the resources, and the local option levy provides close to 46%. The orange slice is the fund balance at about 9.52%, and a very small percentage comes from other revenues, such as interest income. Next slide. Some highlights of the current levy. It expires on June 30th of 2023. On average, the local option levy generates about $15.23 million per year. As mentioned, the current levy rate is 68 cents per $1,000 of assessed value, and it provides 0.54 FTE officer per 1,000 population on average. Next slide. The same highlights of the proposed levy. If passed by the voters, it would expire on June 30th of 2028. On average, the local option levy would generate about $22.5 million per year. As mentioned, the proposed rate of 83 cents per $1,000 of assessed value is a replacement levy, and it would continue to provide that 0.54 FTE officer per 1,000 of population. Next slide. This slide compares the current and proposed local option levy tax impact. So for comparison, we generally use the last year of the current levy and the first year of the proposed levy to compare the rates and proposed tax impact. So starting at the bottom of the slide, you can see the average value for this of home value for this next fiscal year, 2022-23, is projected to be around $309,811. And at a rate of 68 cents per $1,000, you can see the annual cost for this homeowner would be about $210.67, which breaks down to a monthly cost of about $17.56. In the first year of the proposed levy, 2023 to 24, the projected average home value is $320,655. And at a rate of 83 cents per thousand, the annual cost would be about $266.14, with a monthly cost of approximately $22.18, which is an annual increase of $55.67 and a monthly increase of $4.62 over the prior year. Next slide, please. You may recall this slide from the December 14th work session. This shows the voter survey result with respect to the basic language that would appear on the ballot, which can be seen down the right side of the slide. The yes and no categories are divided into strongly, not strongly, and or undecided but leaning in that response. In total, the yes category makes up about 58% of responses. The no category totals 19% and the undecided at 22%. Additional outcome statements that also ranked high among the survey respondents include helping deputies connect people experiencing homelessness with community resources, helping to fund a public safety response to the increased overdoses and abuse of Xanax, Oxycontin, fentanyl, and other drugs in the community, funding advanced training in crisis intervention and de-escalation for deputies, ensuring a rapid response to all 911 calls in nearly half the time of the national average, funding police service levels across the district to be similar to neighboring cities, and funding the county's mental health response team, which pairs a deputy and clinician to respond to people in crisis and divert them from the criminal justice system. Next slide.
During the months of September, October, November, you'll recall we conducted 2 community engagement sessions. My thanks to your board for your participation in those conversations. Your board conducted a public hearing and approved the district's renewal. We completed a community survey and report to your board, along with getting the voter survey into the field. And we provided a briefing to the ESPD Advisory Committee and the Public Safety Coordinating Council. My sincere appreciation to the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement and our community outreach specialists, and Philip Ransford, Aaron Calvert, and the CIO team for their hard work and coordination to get that work accomplished. And then last month, slide please. You recall last month we presented the voter survey results, and yesterday we conducted some individual briefings to your board members to ensure you have the information you need to be fully informed regarding the replacement levy. And we're looking ahead to the January 18th public hearing and consideration of ballot material and measure filing. Slide, please. We'd love to entertain your questions and feedback. Thank you.
Board members, do you have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Treese.
I don't have any questions. I just want to express my appreciation for the amount of work that has gone into this and the outreach to our community. And I'm just very pleased with the direction we're going, and I will enthusiastically support this. Thank you very much to the entire team for the work that's been done.
Are there any other board comments? Do we have a motion to approve the Enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District ESPD levy replacement proposal and direct staff to draft the ballot material? We have a motion from Commissioner Treese and a second from Commissioner Rogers. Are there any last board comments now that we have a motion on the table? Okay, I'll close with comments. We're about to have a vote on this motion. Let there be no doubt that every member of this Board of Commissioners supports the work of our Sheriff Department in its various roles, including our Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District. This board has given direction to our staff to develop this replacement levy for ESPD, just as we directed the same for the replacement levy for the public safety levy through our work in 2019 into 2020. I can say for myself that I worked on the campaign to get that levy passed. This board and its flavors have also made decisions to continue to affirm our support and commitment for public safety throughout Washington County through our work with the budgets for fiscal year 20, fiscal year 21, and fiscal year 22. We as board members, as elected officials, also have the responsibility to seek, listen to, and respect the diverse viewpoints of our community members. Our board supports the work of our staff and enables them to do that work each and every day for the benefit of our community. And that includes key decision points such as what we have here today with the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District levy replacement. I will be fully supporting this effort and continue to respect the work of our staff members each and every day in service to our community as we have different roles. Thank you, Aaron, for helping lead this work in working in partnership with our peer elected official in Sheriff Pat Garrett. We do great work here in Washington County together. All those in favor of adopting this motion, please vote by raising your hand or saying yes. Thank you, commissioners. Anyone opposed? It is unanimous. There we go. Let us go and get that ballot material developed so we can get it on the May 17th, 2022 ballot for continued great support in our communities. Next, we'll move on to our second public comment period, which provides up to 5 minutes per individual to speak to the full Board of Commissioners. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to speak with us at this time?
Madam Chair, we did have 2 members signed up, but I currently do not see them online. So they were just there, but it looks like they had dropped off. So we no longer have anyone signed up.
Oh dear. I'm delaying here just for a moment in case they show back up in the attendee list for some reason, but I guess not. So maybe they were interested in any of the various actions that we just took care of.
I see the one. So Madam Chair, we have Mr. Jim Long. Jim, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
you can. Please go ahead for up to 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll be reading from a letter which I'll submit later today. to the Board of Commissioners, care of Kevin Moss, the clerk of the board. This is regarding inclusiveness and the lack of access to online public hearings, for example, on proposed ordinance 881 and others. Dear Board of Commissioners and Clerk Moss, less than a month ago, a number of residents wanted to testify at the recent public hearing before the board for ordinance 881. At least 3, if not more, of these citizens were signed up to testify via the pre-registering system. Dick Cartwright says he and a number of other people from unincorporated Washington County want to testify on ordinance 881 package, but they were not recognized and their shared or their shared computer usage opportunities. This also includes another person who is blind, but had also signed up the day before, who had signed up the day before, but because she could not use the Zoom link, she, with help from one of her assistants, came to my office and wanted to testify via sharing my computer Zoom application. Unfortunately, you did not ask for her oral testimony. Even though I still had about 15 or more seconds to introduce her, I was cut off when trying to introduce her. When I raised my Zoom hand, you did not recognize me and would not let me introduce her to testify. So there were a number of community members who had signed up, wanted to testify, but were not called upon. How many times has this happened? This seems to be a denial of public participation. So how do you explain that? What are you going to do to improve the system for inclusiveness so all people, including those with disabilities who want to testify, are able to testify? We would like a written response, please. Thank you, Jim Long.
Thank you, Jim, for bringing this to our attention and for following up with said letter. And I would ask both Ms. Angie as well as Mr. Carr to follow up on this matter to help ensure that we make sure we're doing everything we can to be fully accessible and to follow through on our commitment to openness and transparency here at Washington County. Commissioner Treese.
Chair Harrington, I just received a text message from Commissioner Fye that her internet went out. So I just wanted to let the commission know that she let me know.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Go ahead, Commissioner Willie.
Could somebody refresh my memory as to what ordinance 881 was? I'm looking back in the previous meetings and I just started that and I'm not seeing it there, so I must be in the wrong meeting. But
was that the one on the 185th Avenue extension as part of our TSP update?
I believe so, Madam Chair.
I can check my file here in a second. Hang on.
It was the transportation plan amendments, 185th Avenue.
Yeah, that's
okay,
the one that was modified to remove the inclusion of that plan. All right, I'm sorry. Clerk Moss, was there anyone else in attendance for testimony today?
There was no other hands that I saw raised, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. All righty, so the next item on the agenda is board announcements. We have a roundtable meeting starting at 9 o'clock this Thursday morning. Next Tuesday is a dedicated work session day starting at 8:30. We have 2 special meetings on Friday, January 14th. At 9:30 in the morning, we will be joining other counties to move forward with the State Senate District 16 appointment. And we all have, at least in our email boxes today, the roster that has been advanced to us. Later that day at 1:30 in the afternoon, we, as the Washington County Board of Commissioners, will be meeting again on a different Senate district. This will be State Senate District 15 appointment meeting. So 2 different Senate districts 16 at 9:30 and 15 at 1:30. Then on Tuesday, January 18th, we'll have our pair of meetings, much like today. And on Tuesday, January 25th, which will be our work session in the afternoon and an evening board meeting. I do want to highlight that Monday, January 17th is a federal and state observed holiday with Martin Luther King's birthday. So just highlighting to make sure that we are able to review our packet on Friday, since Monday won't be a work day. So, are there any other board announcements for today? Okay. With that, we will be reconvening in work session at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So do we have a motion to adjourn the Washington County Board of Commissioners meeting? We have a motion from Commissioner Rogers. Do we have a second? A second from Commissioner Treese. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries 4-0. Just noting that as Commissioner Treese mentioned, Commissioner Fye lost her internet connection. So let the minutes reflect that she was here for all subsequent action items. All righty. See you at 1 o'clock. Thank you.